Hi guys, this is the class for October 25th. I will not be here today, so that's why you're going to be watching this on video. I am going to post this on Monday, October 24th before I leave for Helena, so hopefully you guys have the rest of the week to watch it and then be ready to go on Thursday when we meet again. So two things that we're going to be going over today, a little bit of cultural diversity in your classroom, and then we're going to jump in and talk a little bit about the book Sherman Alexie wrote. Hopefully you had a chance to get into it. I personally love it. Okay, so probably the biggest thing you need to remember about cultural diversity in your classroom is you need to remember the students that you're teaching did not grow up in the same situations and the same background as you. And that's really, really good to remember sometimes, not even if you're teaching in a place that's different than where you grew up, or even just having students in your classroom from different places in the world. I mean, the world's a small place once you kind of get out into it, and it's very likely you'll have people in your classrooms that have completely different backgrounds, beliefs, and experiences that you have. So just a quick little story about this, and I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but I made a pretty big cultural, well, in fact, I've made lots of them. Like I'm not the perfect teacher, but when I was first starting out, I wasn't super sure of all the Native American cultural things, and I was living on the reservation, and I was teaching on the reservation, and so there's a lot of things I had to learn. First thing is that every culture deals with death a little bit differently, and then how I traditionally grew up dealing with death was very different than the Native Americans' traditional wakes and songs and traditions and prayers are totally different than what I grew up with. So I wasn't really sure about this. So I had this kid in my class, his name is Kendall, and sweetest kid, absolutely loved him. And he had the longest, beautiful braids. I mean, they were just like long, and they were dark and thick and just beautiful, beautiful braids, and he was very proud of his braids. And so one day he came to school and they were totally cut off. Like all of his hair was cut off. And I, being of the idea that we're building relationships with these kids, I say, "Oh my gosh, Kendall, you look so handsome today. I love your new haircut." And comes to find out, in the culture, and especially in his family, when somebody dies, you cut your hair and your braids and you put them as a sacrifice to the loved ones that you just lost. So his grandpa just died that night, and they had this big ceremony of cutting off his braids, and I had to call attention to it, and I felt so stupid and so horrible. I just wanted to take that kid and just give him a hug, and I was like, I was so sorry for his loss, because he was very, very close to his grandpa. And so I didn't realize that until after I'd said a comment like that. And yeah, he's 8 and he's probably over it by now, but at the time I was 30, I probably should have known better. I didn't know. I didn't know what was going on. So like cultural things like that if you don't know where you're living or the students that you're around, it's very easy to make little mistakes like that. Unintentional, of course, but there's just things that you just need to know where you live, and I didn't. Another one that I felt really bad about, and it was my own ignorance too, is that I was invited to a giveaway. And has any of you been to a giveaway before? Well, I was also living right by the reservation. We didn't live on it, but right next to the reservation. My husband worked for the Forest Service, so I lived in government housing through the Forest Service, and then I went on the reservation and I taught, and then went back. So that was kind of my world. But I was also told that I am white, I am a white woman, and I am the lowest person that deserves respect in this community. So knowing that and going into the situation, if somebody's asking me if I'm going to a giveaway, I was like, I don't know. I mean, in my head, I don't want, if it's a giveaway and it was from somebody who was working at the school, and looking back, she should have told me. I don't know why didn't she tell me this stuff? I don't know. So a giveaway, she's leaving. She was moving, and I thought she was giving away her things, because that would make sense, right? If you're moving away from the reservation, why would you take some stuff with you if you needed a couch or a stove or a snow boots or whatever it was? Then you would give them away to people who need it. That in my head is what I thought it was. And so when she asked me, "Are you coming to my giveaway?" I was like, "Oh, thanks, but I think we have things going on that night. I'm so sorry. I'd love to support you, but I like it. You're my thoughts and prayers. Whatever I said, I'm sure it was like fabulously better said than what I just said. But I was like declined, and then she kind of looked at me like, okay. And so then the next day she's like, are you sure you don't want to come to that giveaway? And at that time I went home and talked to my husband about it, and I said, I'm pretty sure that she's giving away her stuff, and I don't want to be the first there, assuming that I need things when other people maybe need things more than I do, and I don't want to be that, in the way, or I don't want to be that white girl who thinks she's better than everybody else, and all that kind of stuff. I didn't want that, so I thought I was just going to avoid that whole situation and not even go. So again, I said, oh, I'm so sorry, won't be able to make it. I can't even remember what I said. This was years ago. But it was some kind of an excuse not to go to this giveaway. Do you know what a giveaway is? It's a thing. It's a ceremony for people who are leaving the community. They give gifts, usually homemade, handmade gifts, to people that they have had a relationship with as a comforting measure. Like, I'm leaving, so here is a thing of comfort to keep, while I'm gone. So she had made us all like pillows, like handmade pillows, and like all the teaching staff was getting these nice handmade pillows because she was leaving. That was like a cultural thing. And so I wasn't there. I didn't come and get mine. I was trying to avoid looking like an outcast, and I made myself look like a bigger outcast by not going to this giveaway. So the next day at school, there's this present on my desk, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this from? And the other teachers are like, well, it was from the giveaway last night you didn't go to. And I was like, dude, you're going to have to fill me in. Like, this can't happen again. You got to tell me what a giveaway is. In my head, I had something totally different. And that was my first year teaching, so I really didn't know people well enough to be like, hey, what's up? What's going on? So made a big ass of myself a couple different times. But the thing is that if you don't know your students' background and their cultures, you are really doing them a disservice. And you're doing yourself a disservice too. So what I should have done, looking back, is I should have spent more time in the community and getting to know the people before I jumped in and taught third grade. Although that was like a first rough year. But after that, it got better. And then the aide that worked in my classroom, I just said, hey, you're going to have to help me out. Like, I don't know this stuff, and there's no way I would have known this stuff, but you're going to have to help me out. And she's like, oh, well, I just thought everybody knew. And it's like, well, no, not everybody knows that. And I didn't grow up that far from the reservation, but I was definitely not engulfed in that culture. So that was just like a few minor things that I have made a complete fool of myself on. But long story short, there's probably like 20 more you could sit and laugh at me about, but that's what it was. So long story short is that you cannot assume the students that are in your classroom have the same background as you do. And it's very easy to assume that, because in my head, what I was thinking about haircuts and giveaways was something totally different, and that I did not have any idea. So that's that. One of the first things for thinking about cultural diversity in your classroom is we're going to have to kind of step back and look at, is this room about me or is this room about my class? And that was kind of a big lesson for me to learn too, because my first classroom was a lot about me because I was just trying to figure things out. By the second, third, and fourth year, it was all about the students because I did figure things out. And you will too. So no matter if you are working in a school that's predominantly one culture or another, you'll figure it out. I mean, that's just human nature. But just be aware of it. That's one of the most important things. So I'm going to minimize my face here. It's probably enough looking at me. And I found this website that's pretty good. So if you want to, I'll put a link of it below the video. If you want to go check it out, it's some really great ideas of how to support diversity in your classroom. And they've got different videos, they've got different ways to do things. But what I did appreciate at the bottom, I'm going to keep scrolling here a little bit, lots of videos, which is, I really do appreciate that. They give you 7 steps on like what you should kind of do to think about your classroom. And the first one, and I think is the most important one, is like you need to reevaluate your teaching materials. Like, make sure what you're teaching is fair to all people in your classroom. So, you know, like right here it says, whose stories will you tell? Especially in the humanities and social sciences, teaching materials can often be limited to Western, white, male, middle class narratives, which is so true. If you look at the read-alouds that you have in your classroom, do they come from different cultures? Do they come from different backgrounds? Do they come from one point of view? Look at your history books. Who's telling that story in your history books? Maybe pick an event and tell it from 3 different sides. That'd be the most accurate way. When we talked about like the curriculum in your classroom where you're not going to pick a side on abortion or politics or sex education or something like that, you're just simply giving the facts. Same thing with this stuff. You're giving the facts. But if you're in a younger classroom, like preschool through 3rd grade, sometimes the facts of the world are kind of scary. So what we do is we tell stories. And those stories need to come from different cultures, different ways of looking at things, different ideas, different places in the world. And so much so that every kid needs to find themselves in a book. So if you don't have any books about, Spanish background and you've got a Spanish child in your classroom, make the effort to go get some. If you have like a student with a disability and you have a student in a wheelchair and you've got no books with students with wheelchairs, go get yourself some, because every kid needs to feel represented and a part of that classroom. That's their classroom. They need to feel it. So I would think the first thing you need to do is reevaluate your teaching materials. Sometimes you don't have a lot of control over that because it's in the schools and it's whatever book that have already been purchased, but there is different ways you can go about that. Your writing can be different. Your, videos you bring in can be different. The other articles you find on the subject can be different views. As long as it's something that's, giving the facts. I'm just going to go back to that. You got to give the facts. Another thing they tell you is like, get to know your students, and I've been saying that for quite some months now. But I back up a little bit about, evaluating your teaching materials. There's like different ways and different things that you can jump into on this website on how to go about that. Homelessness, English as a second language, like different histories of the world. You can change your existing curriculum to fit the students you have in your classroom. And obviously getting to know your students, that is one of the most important ones, I think, because if you don't have a relationship with your students, it's going to be harder to cross those barriers. And be willing to address inequality. That's kind of a big one. That's a big one because a lot of us as teachers do things to avoid conflict. And I am one of those. I try to avoid like the plague, but sometimes you have to call a spade a spade. If something is not working and there are stereotypes going on and things are inappropriate, you got to say something. So remove anything that's like any markers of inequality in your classroom, and just make sure that each one of those students that you have, regardless of their home life, background, socioeconomic status, if they're poor, if they have money, doesn't matter. We all are making sure that each student is represented in that classroom, and you are the teacher for all of those students, not just for the ones that are most like you. And I love this little saying right here. It says, fair isn't everybody getting the same thing. Fair is everybody getting what they need to be successful. And they use that word for like inequality and equity. So I'm sure you've seen the posters on that before. All right, connecting with your family and the communities, like be a part of the community. If you are going to jump into this community, be a part of it. Like be the, be this football coach and be the student council president, and you got to jump in and help with those cheerleaders or whatever they need. If you're helping things for the school, then that can bleed into the community with, food drives and parent nights and homeless shelters and those kind of things. You've got to be part of the community. Obviously, to meet diverse needs as well, and that's a whole class. We have a whole class on that next year coming up, your fall, sophomore of your fall year, that's going to talk about all about inequalities of disabilities. And, schools should hire diversely, absolutely, but sometimes when you're in a small place like Eastern Montana, those things aren't always applicable. So we do the best we can with what we have. And then also supporting professionals, making sure the teachers know that they are supported as well. But I would highly suggest looking at this website. I'll put a link to it below this video so you can have a chance to look at it, and we can go from there. So my second video is going to be a little bit shorter, and it's going to be about this book right here. All right, see you in a minute.